I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's a new day for the world. Khomeini and at least 48 Iranian leaders killed in U.S.-Israeli strikes. It's been talked about as one of the most successful and lethal regime decapitations in modern military history. It could not have happened to a more deserving group of people. What do you think of Trump's order late Friday night, early Saturday morning to strike Iran in Operation Epic Fury? Are we being pulled into another Iraqi-Afghanistan quagmire? Do you look at this as a tremendous success? And Donald Trump fulfilling his promise, saying he's going to bomb the blank out of them. And they've existed for 47 years, tormenting the world, killing Americans, leading the October 7th and the funding of Hezbollah and Hamas. Is the world a brighter place today because of what Donald Trump and the American military might was able to do in essentially decapitating the leadership of Iran? Give us a call and join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to speak with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg directly from Jerusalem, Israel. If you know the Goldberg family, the Intermountain Jewish News, a great publication. I have a subscription to it to be able to understand what the Jewish community is experiencing out there and how they analyze the news facing our community. I strongly recommend you get a subscription to the Intermountain Jewish News. But Chaim, a rabbi and a reservist in the IDF, will give us the latest on what's happening in Jerusalem.
This is important because if you've seen some of those maps of Iran retaliating, they are focusing on Israel. They do have attacks elsewhere in the region, mostly for U.S. bases that are held elsewhere in the Middle East. But because of Israel partnering with the U.S., they are the focus of a lot. I'm not sure if I can say the majority because that would be over 50%. I haven't done the math, but the groupings of the attack, the largest portion of them do happen in Israel. So this is a guy that is there dealing with this firsthand, and it's really, really important we get to talk to him. This is cool.
Now is time for the news with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. It is Monday, March 2nd, 40 and a little bit cloudy out there in Denver, 38 in the Springs, expecting highs in the lower 70s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning. For a new home heating and cooling system, contact your Lennox dealer, Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at pastorcamp.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Our top story.
Tehran was not negotiating. They were stalling, buying time to reload their missile stockpiles and restart their nuclear ambitions. Their goal, hold us hostage, threatening to strike our forces.
That's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth last hour in a Pentagon presser, the president last night.
These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty.
Conflict spreading across the Middle East today after the U.S. and Israel struck Iran over the weekend, killing the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran was quick to respond, of course, bombarding the region with retaliatory strikes. 4 U.S. service members have been killed in action, with 47 telling the nation to brace for more casualties to come.
I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America.
There's also confirmation of jets downed by friendly fire. And here we go.
CENTCON confirms that 3 F-15E Strike Eagles flying in support of Operation Epic Fury were shot down in a friendly fire incident. It happened during active combat, including Iranian aircraft, ballistic missiles, and drones. The U.S. Air Force jets were shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. All 6 crew members ejected safely and are listed in stable condition. The incident is now being investigated. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Members of Congress are now scheduled to receive classified briefings on Tuesday. The Defense Department is putting military bases on alert for attacks targeting U.S. facilities and personnel. All military bases in the country have increased security at all entrance gates. According to the Pentagon, the heightened security measures will involve increased patrols, 100% ID checks, random vehicle inspections, and suspension of the Trusted Traveler program. The suspect in a shooting outside a bar in Austin, Texas, that left 2 people dead on Sunday and 14 others injured is dead. He's described as a Senegalese native and naturalized U.S. citizen who had a history of mental illness. Gas prices are creeping up amid the attacks. Nationwide, the average price of a gallon is currently $2.98, and the experts say it will likely go up a couple of cents as early as this week. Experts also warn that prices could spike if there are disruptions in shipping from the Persian Gulf. Lakewood police say a man rammed 2 ICE vehicles during an attempted detainment Saturday morning, injuring at least 1 agent before fleeing into a neighborhood apartment complex. A group of protesters gathered outside the apartments during the incident.
No warrant! Go home! No warrant! Go home!
Officers set up a perimeter on the 200 block of South Ingalls Street around 10 in the morning and stayed nearby for public safety, but did not take part in the federal operation. Federal agents did obtain a warrant, searched the building, and appeared to take a man into custody. Local officers helped residents leave the area safely before clearing the scene. Once again, a member of the CU football team has died after a crash in Boulder County. The state patrol says that 23-year-old Dominique Ponder died early Sunday in a single vehicle crash on Baseline near Newland Court. Ponder reportedly lost control on a curve and crashed through a guardrail, hitting an electrical line before rolling down an embankment. His Tesla caught fire during the crash, and Ponder was pronounced dead at the scene. All right, NBA action on Sunday. The Nuggets lose to the T-Wolves 117-108 tonight at the Jazz. Avalanche at the Kings tonight. Drop the puck at 8:30. 38 in the Springs, 48 in Denver. That's the latest. I'm Blake Olson. More of the Jeff and Bill Show ahead on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver, and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
Your 710 KNUS forecast on this early Monday. Mostly cloudy this morning, temperatures in the upper 30s as you start the day. Partly sunny this afternoon, highs in the lower 60s. Some showers developing after midnight tonight, lows in the upper 30s. Chance for rain, maybe even a thunderstorm Tuesday, highs around 55. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1 in The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides. Always from one of the best families I know in Colorado, the Goldbergs. A legendary family that created the Intermountain Jewish News and have been part of a lot of the stuff I did at Colorado Christian University in building those bonds and those relationships between Christians and Jews. And he's been on the show before. Joining us now, Rabbi Chaim Goldberg from Jerusalem in Israel.
Oh, yeah.
He
We're
is
hoping this is going to be a solid connection.
Yeah,
he and I have
right.
been playing off air, and this is a sketchy one. We'll see
He
what happens.
is a Torah teacher. He's also an IDF reservist and writer. What a historic weekend. Rabbi, thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Give us your perspective on Operation Epic Fury, a joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran, and give us a sense of how people are feeling this morning in Israel.
Look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of different emotions going on. It also really depends different parts of the country. Where, if you're in the north, you might be really in the shelters almost all day, and it's just a totally different feeling. I mean, overall, though, it's an incredible miracle, if you ask me, to be able to have done what the U.S. and Israel did on Saturday morning, and also going back to last June. Really, if you even think about Syria, Hezbollah, Lebanon, the amount of terror that has been eliminated with very minimal loss of life to armed forces is really miraculous. And especially on the Jewish calendar, the timing is incredibly miraculous. Saturday is the Shabbat, the Sabbath before the holiday of Purim. The Jewish people commemorate Purim tonight and tomorrow. And Purim is a day when we remember the ancient Haman, who was in ancient Persia, a genocidal man, which has been recorded for posterity in the Scroll of Esther, who wanted to destroy the entire Jewish people. And thank God his plans were thwarted in a miraculous series of events. And here, too, we have, this Ayatollah of Iran, who for decades has been proclaiming his intentions to destroy Israel, to destroy America. And if there's anything we've learned from history, it's when your enemies say they have planned to destroy you, you have to take them seriously. And to be able to have taken out that threat largely with such minimal loss of life, such minimal damage, and we mourn every loss of life that there is, but it's really miraculous.
That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg live from Jerusalem in Israel. And Rabbi, back on October 7th, 1,195 people killed in that attack that took place. Israel really, from my perspective, being aggressive back towards its enemies. What happened in Gaza with Hamas, Hezbollah, now Iran. Give us your reflection on how things have changed in the few years since October 7th, the terrible atrocities that were leveraged against the Jewish people by the Islamic terrorists, and now you stand at a place of tremendous victory from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, in the Hebrew, it summarizes it up in two words, v'nahafochu, which are two words from the scroll of the book of Esther, that the decree has been overturned. That October 7th was a very dark day. It was just, innocent civilians murdered, beheaded, raped in their beds, in their pajamas. And it is really a disgrace to God's name for such wanton violence to be occurring. And here we are, and the decree has been overturned. And in that context, it's important, I think, to make a very important distinction. We're with all of the attacks and this place of victory that Israel is doing, it was hard to see it in Gaza because the civilians and the Hamas are so enmeshed one with the other as human shields. But you see in Iran very clearly that Israel is attacking the Revolutionary Guards, the part of Iran, the governing power, which has declared its genocidal intentions. And Israel is not attacking the entire Iran, is not attacking the entire people of Iran, is not attacking the people of Muslim faith, it is not attacking all people of Persian ethnicity. These are very specific attacks against those of murderous and genocidal intentions. Those people in Iran that are not of such beliefs are absolutely not, have no attacks directed against them. And that is, it's really remarkable. Like I said, it's in the Hebrew, the decree has been overturned from October 7th till today. We don't have prophecy, so there's no longer having books being canonized into the Bible. But the last 2.5 years are really, they're pretty much, they're straight out of the Bible. I mean, miracles of biblical proportions.
I agree entirely with that. That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg live from Israel, giving us perspective on what's happening there. Can you describe what the last 48 hours have been like for you, for your family, for your friends, for the people of Israel? How often are you having to go down to your bunkers? Are you hearing the explosions, those types of things?
Oh, yes. No doubt about it. Like I said, in other places of the country, it might even be worse. The north, the center, Tel Aviv, where I am, we actually just moved since I last spoke. I moved to somewhere about 30 minutes east of Jerusalem, close to the Dead Sea. A beautiful spot. Highly recommend everybody come when things calm down. Really beautiful, one of the 7 wonders of the world. But over here, when we bought our house from people who said in their 20 years that they've been here, they never had a siren. That was about a year ago that they told us that. That is no longer true. This used to be a very quiet part of the country in terms of sirens, but we have been having multiple a day. I'd say 5, 6 a day, maybe sometimes even more. And you have to stay in the shelter it used to be you could come out of the shelter 10 minutes after the siren. Now you have to stay in and for up to about 30 minutes a time because there's so much residual danger from the shrapnel of these ballistic missiles. One little piece of the ballistic missile can be larger than any rocket Hamas ever shot from Gaza. And unfortunately, yesterday was a tragedy, even in the shelter. In the city of Beit Shemesh, which my brother lives in, there was a direct hit. And even the people that were in the shelter, they did everything they were supposed to do, followed all the guidelines. But even a shelter cannot withstand a direct hit from the ballistic missile. 9 people were murdered in that attack. So there's the sense of incredible miracles. There's also a sense of grief and that, a lot of resilience is certainly needed. For the kids, it can be even more difficult. All the sirens, there's a lot. There's no school's canceled for this week. As of now, they're talking about it being canceled for next week also. So all of that uncertainty and the anxiety, those are not easy, not easy pieces of the equation for sure.
And how are your children handling it? I know you have a family. What do you do with them when you have to go down into the shelters? And how are they handling the stress of rocket attacks? So,
again, just speaking personally, and I cannot say that this is true for on a wide scale, but at least for us, we're blessed to have a shelter big enough in our apartment that we can all sleep in. So we just go to sleep, and then we don't need to move when there's sirens in the night. That makes a huge difference because you just don't end up sleep deprived. And so anyone who doesn't have that, I'm sure it's much, much worse. But we're blessed to have that situation where we can all sleep in the safe room. And besides that, the truth is we have really done our best to give them a sense of calm and stability. I tried to speak to them actually before bedtime on Saturday night, a little bit when I found out some of the details about why this operation broke out on Saturday morning the way it did, which was because the Iranian leadership had all sat down in one place above ground in a place that could be attacked. And that was a variable that was outside of the U.S. Army or the Israeli Army's control. They had all kinds of plans in place, but they didn't know when this meeting might happen. But God had it be that the meeting happened, right before this holiday of Purim. And I think that sense of seeing God's hand in history, which sometimes is very hard to see God's hand in history, but the last few months, year or so, God has, I think, been making it very easy to see his hand in history. And on their own level, obviously, I said things in a kid-appropriate way, but I tried to give them some of that context, and I think that actually really made a difference to their acceptance of the whole situation. So they've been in pretty good spirits overall. But we have sirens, but we also are not the target of any missiles. We're in danger because of shrapnel. We have a lot of interceptions overhead. We're right near the Dead Sea, the Jordan border. That's where a lot of the interceptions happen. So shrapnel can fall, but no missile is being directed to where we are. So I mean, definitely living in the Tel Aviv area, the north, places where the missiles are being shot at. And again, if people don't have a shelter that they could sleep in all night, I'm sure that, many people are dealing with much more difficult situation with their kids.
That's Chaim Goldberg, live from Israel. He's a rabbi. He's a Jerusalem-based Torah teacher, IDF reservist, and writer, and member of the family that founded Intermountain Jewish News and runs that here in Denver, Colorado. So a great Colorado connection. Rabbi, what's your take on the length of this battle with Iran? Do you believe that it's going to be over quickly? Do you believe it'll be extended for years? What's your take?
Just first, I just want to add one thing to my bio, just because it's very relevant to what's going on. I also work as a school psychologist. That's really my main job. All the other things I really enjoy doing, and I do have to say that in relation to your previous question, I mean, definitely I'm seeing in my work and the messages that are going through to the teachers, to principals. There definitely is a sense that on the whole, for most kids, this is, and for my kids as well, also, no doubt about it, just a question of degree, but there is certainly a lot of anxiety that comes with all the sirens and the war. As to your question on the length, it seems pretty clear that it's not going to be something, certainly not a year's war. I know that there's a bit of a divide in American politics, or a big divide in terms of those kinds of questions. I'm no prophet, but it seems pretty clear that this is not a repeat of Iraq in any way. There does not seem to be any prospect of any sort of ground force involvement from the U.S., and there shouldn't be. But it seems that there certainly could be a few weeks of an intense operation, and I think certainly the hope is that based on seeing what the Iranians themselves, the Iranian people, which if we go back to 1979, right, a country of Iran was a prospering country economically, geopolitically. It had diplomatic relations with Israel, and those people in Iran that do not like their government, that has in fact murdered thousands of them over the last few weeks, I think that's a source of great hope that they will be able to create a new chapter for Iran.
That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg talking to us from Jerusalem. This is a real pleasure and a real treat, and I hope you stay safe, sir. This is really important, and you and your family have been important to the community here on the Jeff and Bill Show. One of the questions I've got for you is about some of the attacks that are happening elsewhere in the Middle East, and the idea that it was in part Saudi Arabia pushing for the removal of the Iranian leadership. Where I'm going with this is, with that, I will say, support, and I'm not sure if it's the right word, but from that support of the Iranian removal of leadership from the Saudis and Iran attacking other Middle Eastern countries, do you personally feel this could, however strange it is, usher in a new era of maybe diplomacy and cooperation between Israel and other countries in the Middle East that might not have been possible prior to this attack?
I mean, certainly that is my fervent prayer and hope. That's for sure. In terms of what can actually be, I mean, anything is possible, for good and for bad. But I mean, I think we have a lot of basis on which to hope for the good. I mean, you look at the Abraham Accords in 2020 that were brokered under President Trump, and I think it's very possible that and that we can see future such accords. I mean, you've seen from Iran. I think this sense of it's just attacking everyone is sort of its desperation. A lot of Iran's whole position vis-a-vis Israel is just grounded in its sheer irrationality. Like I said, in 1979, Iran was at peace before the revolution. Israel has no territorial proximity to Iran. There was never any conflict with Israel. There was no, this is purely an ideological, religious thing that the Revolutionary Guards of Iran came up with, that we need to destroy Israel. So I think that now it's sort of, attacking everyone as it's sort of last-ditch attempt. Please God, our prayer is that, in fact, this is the last attempt, and the dictatorship and future, the potential successors will all meet their end, and that there will be a new government, a government that can that respect its people, democratic, have diplomatic relations with Israel, and so too all those other countries. It's I'm not in diplomacy, so there's such differences between what you see that countries say aloud versus what they're saying back channel, quietly. It's very hard for me to know exactly and predict what's going on in all these countries' calculations. But absolutely, I think that the prospect is there of a lasting peace, and that's something that we pray for every day.
That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg coming to us live from Israel. We do have a question from a listener asking why the Iranians are attacking the northern part of Israel. Can you give us some sense on why they're targeting that?
Yes, then in Haifa is where Israel has its oil refineries and sensitive infrastructure. So I think that's the main target for them up there is in Haifa and the ports. Attacking the shipping lanes. All those kinds of strategic elements. So they are attacking those strategic elements, but they don't really discriminate. They really shoot. The attack yesterday in Beit Shemesh was not near any strategic element. That's purely civilian population. But I think up north, that is what they're aiming for.
That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. Rabbi, thank you so very much for your time today. We'll continue to pray for you, for your family, as Psalm 122 reminds us, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And when everything you're dealing with, taking time to join us, give our listeners an update, we sure appreciate it. God bless you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Stay safe.
Well, bless you. I firmly believe, as the Bible says, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and may you be blessed.
Thank you so much. That's Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. And I do encourage folks, get a subscription to the Intermountain Jewish News. It's his family's newspaper. They've been around for a long time in Colorado, one of the oldest newspapers here, Intermountain Jewish News, IJN.com. It gives you a real sense of what's happening within the Jewish community, how they're responding to attacks that they face in Israel. It is a very quality newspaper, a lot of great journalism taking place there. Well, We'll continue our conversation on the historic attack against the leadership of Iran that took place over the weekend. Khamenei and at least 48 Iranian leaders killed in U.S.-Israeli strikes. What do you think of the alliance between U.S. and Israel, the attack that took place in Iran? Are we back into another Middle Eastern quagmire, or is this a great moment of freedom and liberation for the Iranian people? Donald Trump saying he was going to bomb the blank out of Iran. Is he fulfilling a promise, or do you see him getting pulled into the neocons and starting another war in the Middle East?
What about that promise that he made just close to Inauguration Day? No more wars. That's a weird one. But yeah, so where are we on that one? That's the thing.
Give us a call and join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. Let's talk modern rugged leather. From city streets to mountain trails, your gear should go wherever life takes you. That's why at Modern Rugged Leather, every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather, designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Each stitch, buckle, and strap reflects timeless craftsmanship and is backed by a lifetime warranty, because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. So whether it's the boardroom or the back roads, Modern Rugged Leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern Rugged Leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Look, life's going to take you places, folks. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection and find yours today. ModernRugged.com. Again, that's ModernRugged.com. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides. A great interview with Chaim Goldberg, live from Jerusalem, Israel. What are the people experiencing there? What's fascinating to me is the concern of shrapnel. So these are not little drones or rockets shot over from Hamas. These are big interballistic missiles that are being fired, and Israel's destroying them while they're in the air, but then all the shrapnel falls. So that's just fascinating what they have to deal with. But great insight into what our Jewish friends in Israel are facing right now, and the optimism that they have. 47 years of having to deal with these nut jobs leading Iran, calling for the end of Israel, calling for the destruction of America. Remember, Israel's the little Satan, America's the great Satan. And when I've talked to Islamists in the streets, they talk about global domination and that Christians and Jews will be second-class citizens. And by the way, if you're a progressive who supports LGBTQ or abortion or all that other stuff, that's not happening. That's what they told me directly. So this was a big win for freedom, for hope, for opportunity. But are we getting pulled into another Middle Eastern quagmire? What do you think?
Haven't we done this before?
Yeah, right.
We did this before in 1953. 1953, we deposed the
same song, different.
Yeah, different verse. Yeah, second verse, same as the first. Is the idea. And so we already did this in 1953. And the guy that ended up in power, they end up eventually having the revolution in the 70s to depose him because the guy that we put in ends up being an authoritarian dictator. And so when we say we've brought the freedom, their country has seen us do this before. And it didn't result in their freedom. In fact, when we installed the coup, we undid what was their constitutional monarchy and set in an authoritarian monarchy. We set up a dictatorship. So before we start patting ourselves on the back and waving flags and calling ourselves liberators, understand the history in that region. And the last time we did this, it led to authoritarianism. And that was the reason they had the other revolution that brought the Ayatollah back into power.
What do you think? Let's go to the phone lines. Chest Rockwell, you're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I think I'm not sure what everybody's temperature is kind of on the base of Americans, but Donald Trump has successfully shattered MAGA at this point. He was installed to do absolutely almost all of the opposite of what he's already done with this stuff. And Americans right now, I believe, are at a kind of a hunker down scenario. People who are aware of the history of Israel and the conflicts that have perpetuated under their name for over 100 years. And Donald Trump right now has sidestepped the Epstein scenarios with other things that are clouding up everything else. And it's quite clear that he has been infiltrated on every front by people like Howard Lutnick, Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, and he is literally a puppet in free fall right now. And I think we're in serious trouble in this country.
Now, Chess. Now, of course, this is Chester Rockwell. He is using the nickname that he uses on our text messages. This is a reminder to everybody listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. You jump in on the Dan Caplis Law text line. We are happy to give you your own nickname. You don't, in life, get to choose your own nickname. So we've got Jason in Denver, Joan from Lakewood, Leon in Colorado Springs, Gino the Cop, and this is Chester Rockwell on with us, Mary from Wyoming. So when you text in, give us your tagline. Now, the question I've got for you, now I appreciate what you said there. Also, through some DOD people that I watched through social media, they said there is a small group of people inside the Department of Defense that are referring to the Operation Epic Fury as Operation Epstein Fury. That's internal inside the DOD. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to make a comment on that one, but what I've got to comment on this is where you were going with this, Rockwell, about the idea of our involvement with Israel, I did see some commentators over the weekend that questioned whether or not this could appear in that region as if it is Bibi Netanyahu's war and Trump is playing along, because these are long-term goals of Israel's foreign policy. And whether it is fair or not, one commentator I was reading said, whether it's fair or not, there is an appearance in the region that Israel is giving marching orders to the U.S. And how is that going to be absorbed or interpreted across the region, also knowing that in this conflict, Iran is going to do what any country that's been attacked is going to do, and they're going to highlight all the really, really bad things, like the thing about the school, the attack that hit the school. That is going to be front and center.
We don't know if that was an attack, though.
Again, but they're going to do it. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to say they did this. So they're going to do that over and over and over again, whether or not it's legitimate. So, Chest, I want to know your feelings on that. The fact that we're going so close with Israel, how do you feel that might be viewed inside the region?
Yes, you said it perfectly. Israel will do anything to keep themselves in the movement forward to the greater Gaza plan. They have a perfect mastery of keeping themselves as the perpetual victims over there, and they are not above opening their gates for 7 hours.
Chest, hold on. Perpetual victims? How about How about the 1,195 innocent people that were raped and murdered on October 7th?
Well, how long did they leave their borders open to let that happen?
You think they planned that? You think they?
How is there any other way to see that? They have the Iron Dome, the greatest defense system on the planet, and they let their guys go to sleep for 8 hours, not even a response.
Come on.
Chest,
I watched those IDF videos of what happened where innocent people were raped and murdered on October 7th.
That's probably true.
Israel did
not
allow that to happen. That was an attack that took place on them. They're not perpetual victims. They're fighting for their own survival in the Middle East.
And they're keeping themselves at the tip of that spear, are they not?
Keeping themselves? What do you think? They should just roll over and let Iran have their way with them?
How long has Iran been on the doorstep of a nuclear weapon? I think for about 46 years that I've been alive.
And you're okay. You're okay just allowing them to continue to perpetuate that, fund Hamas, fund Hezbollah, fund the IEDs that killed our own troops in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Of course
just
not.
Because
No,
they didn't necessarily get a nuclear weapon, we're just going to allow them to continue to do that.
Well, how many nuclear weapons does Israel have? In Pakistan.
What's the point there?
I'm saying it's rules for thee and not for me. And that doesn't justify any kind of killing going on.
I want to come into this just for a sec. I understand where we're going with this one now. On the nuclear side, I think that unfortunately this attack reinforces for every other country, you better become a nuclear power as soon as possible. Because the only thing that prevents a larger country like the U.S., Russia, China from coming in there is that threat of nuclear deterrence. That's kept Israel safe for years. And part of the reason that people don't really go and mess with India and Pakistan the same way as far as replacing leadership, and we didn't after 9/11, is in part because of their nuclear programs. And that's what I'm worried about in this, is there are going to be some other smaller countries around the world going, if Iran had nuclear weapons, they could have prevented all of this by simply being a nuclear power. If we don't want another country to come in here and either, kidnap and arrest our leadership or even just start bombing us, we better be a nuclear power. I'm worried that this is going to prove the opposite of what many Americans think it already proves.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to control our own place right now. Our house is on fire.
Now, I appreciate that, and Jess, thanks for the phone call. I like where he's going with that one, only because a couple of months ago, and I did this in the text messages, and I'd love to have your idea, Jeff, on this, is a couple of months ago, we heard that the reason we had to take the leadership in Venezuela is because we needed to be secure in our own hemisphere. Now, a couple of months later, we now are taking out leadership in another hemisphere around the globe. Is it really about being secure in our own hemisphere, or is it something else? In your opinion, what do you do with that?
Well, yeah, Venezuela was definitely the Monroe Doctrine, and Trump going, we're no longer going to allow China to continue to control countries that are near us. But you can make a similar argument to Iran that this does have kind of secondary aspects of how it's going to affect our relationship with Russia and China. But look, to Four Corner Steve's point, he just texted in this. People wanted a strong president. He totally disagrees with Chest's Rockwell's assessment that MAGA's breaking apart. Trump said in his campaigns that he was going to bomb the blank out of Iran because he's the type of leader that doesn't let stuff fester. Now, if Trump came and said, well, now we got to move troops in and we're going to be there for the next 5 years, I think you would see MAGA start to break apart. But this idea that problems continue to exist out there and fester that affect not only our allies but us directly, and this is part of a larger battle with Iran, or with China and Russia. Iran kind of falls into all of that. So we'll continue. We get to a break here at 48. Call in, join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. We also have Jeff Crank coming up in the next hour to give us how Congress is responding to this. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides. We're discussing the historic attack that took place over the weekend against Iran's leadership, Khomeini, and at least 48 Iranian leaders killed in U.S.-Israeli strikes. Trump saying that this could take 4 or 5 weeks of work. Bill, what do you think happens here? Some people texting in saying, you know what? We just greenlit Russia to assassinate Zelensky, Ukraine, and Ukraine and China to assassinate the Taiwanian leadership.
Putin said pretty much that over the weekend, that now they've taken the handcuffs off of what he has the ability to do militarily. It's a weird one. The thing for me I can't figure out is why we are assuming that a friendly or even Western-style democracy will grow out of this. I've gone back and forth with a couple of texters right now. A means without an end isn't a strategy. And hoping this will happen isn't a strategy. Hope, pure and simple, isn't a strategy. And we have no strategy for what comes afterwards. I know, but all you hope you change people. And all we're doing now is we're hoping that Iran will do X afterwards. I can't find in history any examples of where leadership was removed by a foreign power and then what grew up afterwards was amenable to that foreign power and exactly in the way they imagined.
No history?
No, I can't find that anywhere.
Germany, Japan, post-World War II?
Did we have a plan, and did they have the Marshall Plan? Yeah. They followed. There was a plan, and we were there. We were in Germany. We were in Japan.
Yeah.
That's the issue, is occupation. Without that, this doesn't happen. You don't have this sort of large-scale change internally in a country, very rarely, for the people that remove the leadership to find a government that approves of and works with them unless you are there and you have a plan and you function the change. And we don't have that.
But
we'll see what happens.
Is it the plan or is it the culture? So, Japan was able to rebuild so fast and develop quite a successful economy, not necessarily because of our occupation plan, in my mind. It's because they're culturally robust people that can build a successful civilization. Same thing with Western Europe. But with the Middle East, I'm not so sure. But that's where I raise a little bit of an eyebrow with Iran. Do you think Iran's different than Afghanistan and Iraq?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot different. But the bottom line is, without any sort of a plan, hope isn't a strategy. Hoping that the right thing will spring up is a really, really bad strategy.
So you have the option to continue going with what we were doing with Iran. Now you have a vacuum, or you have occupation. Which one would you prefer, Bill?
This is the answer I have. If you pull the leadership, you need to be responsible for setting up that government, or don't complain if the government doesn't agree with you. Hope isn't a strategy.
So
if you're going to take them
you'd
out,
rather have bad leaders in there, because at least we know who they are. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
We'll be right back.